people are so afraid to say and to be seen a certain way and to do a certain thing. And I'm like, no. We don't need you to be more polished. We need you to be more you. Yep. But you have to understand who you are and who you are becoming. I want you to be your real, authentic self.
Today in studio, we've got Jessica Rivera, who's the founder and driving force behind JR Coaching and Consulting, which is a leadership, communication, and team culture firm built to help individuals and organizations lead with impact, authenticity, and inclusivity.
Right, I had a kid at 19. I was a young mom. I literally had nothing. It was like a terrible time in my life.
What was your early career like?
Survival. So I was working at 14, but I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. So I just worked hard. And I led a $4 billion organization.
But where's this drive come from?
So my parents, they were definitely motivators. When we were little, they were on welfare. Their tenacity, their grind, their wanting to have more for their family. And so I thought to myself, well, if they could do it, why couldn't I?
You brought back so many memories.
Now I'm really gonna cry because it's crazy. People have told me that
Welcome to another episode of the Real Mentors Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Martin. And as always, REAL stands for Real Examples Altering Lives. Today in studio, I'm excited to have a person that I met recently and struck me as someone that we needed to get on here and share her message. We've got Jessica Rivera, who's the founder and driving force behind JR Coaching and Consulting, which is a leadership, communication, and team culture firm built to help individuals and organizations lead with impact, authenticity, and inclusivity. With nearly 2 decades of corporate experience, Jessica has navigated the challenges and biases of climbing the corporate ladder as a Latina, which fueled her mission to reshape leadership through empathy, clarity, and belonging. Welcome to the show today, Jessica. How are you?
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
I'm excited to have you on. We got to chop it up a little bit before we got on today. And after about 8 minutes, I was like, oh, we're going to be good because the Brooklyn came out of her.
Yeah.
So where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I grew up in Brooklyn until middle school, and then I moved to Queens.
What part of Queens?
I always say the Brooklyn side of me is like the hardcore, tough, and the Queens side, it's like the nice girl.
Really?
That's what I say.
You're in the nice part of Queens?
I kind of was. At least I thought I was, right? And it's all perception.
Yes,
but
it is.
I grew up in Queens Village.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that is a step up
borderline Queens,
okay.
borderline Long Island, yeah.
And then you're now a Long Islander like myself?
And now I am.
How long have you been out here?
I bought my house in like 2007.
Oh,
so
wow.
a long
So you've
time.
been out here for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Now tell us a little bit about growing up in Brooklyn. What was that like for you? Did you grow up with your mom, your dad?
Oh, I have the best parents ever. I always say I won the lotto when God was giving out parents. But I remember Brooklyn was just fun. Like, it's so funny. When I think about it now, it's like the only people that lived or that I interacted with was like white, black, and Puerto Rican. And if you weren't Puerto Rican, you lied and said you were Puerto Rican, right? Like, that was back then. And then when I moved to Queens, that's where I met all these different type of like Hispanic ethnicities, right? Colombian, Ecuadorian. Yeah. But I just remember, I appreciate now, many neighborhoods are segregated, right? But growing up in New York, at least for me, I had a little bit of everything. And I feel like that really helped shape my thought process as far as humans are concerned. And my parents are amazing. And so they always had like open door policy. Our house was the party house always. And so whether you were black, white, I could bring guy friends over. Like, we were the party house.
Your parents are Puerto Rican? Or?
My parents are both Puerto Rican.
Yeah, we like to party.
Oh, 100%. It's like in the it's like in our DNA. At least my grandmother was partying probably till her 90s. Like,
I
literally.
always joke, right? Like, I'm Dominican and Puerto Rican, and when merengue or bachata comes on, it's almost like an involuntary response.
Literally.
Where the blood starts jumping around, and if you're not from there, you just don't get it. There's just something about the rhythm. But you said something telling, which I always say, which is New York City, for anybody who doesn't know, is one of the most diverse places on the planet.
Yeah.
Yet and still, it is one of the most segregated places that I can think of.
Yeah.
You've got your Pakistani neighborhoods. You've got your Punjabi Indian neighborhoods. You've got your Chinese neighborhood, Korean neighborhood.
Yeah.
You've got your Puerto Rican neighborhoods.
Yeah.
But Puerto Ricans tend to mingle more with blacks and whites and everybody because they're more part of the New York culture and been around for generations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that impacted you. And then you come out to Long Island eventually. Mm-hmm. What was the shift, or why'd you come out to the island? Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, my kids, right? I had a kid at 19. I was a young mom. I had started it's so funny, right? I was just telling the story. The year my sister purchased her home, it was a horrible year for me. I had turned 30 years old. I literally had nothing. Like I didn't own anything. I didn't have a car. It was like a terrible time in my life. And my mother was like, well, maybe you'll be able to buy a house one day. Like maybe you, and I was like, Mom, why would you say that? I'm alone. I had just broke up. And like, I was pissed. I bought a house a year later, literally a year later by myself. But I remember rolling up to that house, this little house, and thinking, oh my God, this is gonna be so perfect for my boys. And we lived so I grew up in Queens Village, and the town that I moved to is like a couple of towns, like one of the first towns into Long Island. And I just remember thinking, I never thought I could even live there. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And so it felt like a big accomplishment.
For sure. I mean, it's just such a difference. I have one of my partners is from Ozone Park, Guyanese. And I remember he came out to the house and for the first time was like, this is great. Like, so when are you gonna move to the suburb? They're almost afraid of what's on the nature scares them. The peace and quiet scares them initially.
Yeah.
But what we know scares them, because we've done the work, is really the uncomfortability of going to a place you're unfamiliar with.
Yeah. So
talk about your career and how you kind of shifted to where you are now. What was your early career like?
Survival. A lot of it, I've been working since I was 14 years old. And so I always had like an independent streak. Maybe because I had no choice, right? So it's like back then, if you wanted a phone, which was like a landline, my parents were not going to pay for my own phone. And then I had to share my phone with my siblings and all that. So I wanted my own phone.
The cord running through the house, the 25-foot cord that we would eventually stretch to 50 somehow.
That's exactly right. And so I always had this level of wanting my own money and not having to ask anyone for anything. And so I was working at 14, and so a lot of that was just survival. And then once I had my baby at 19 years old, I was like, I needed to prove to myself that I could do it. Because that wasn't normal in my family. Like, there were no single moms in my family. I was single mom, I was a young mom, and that just was not normal for my family. And so I almost had to prove to myself that I could do it. I always would say, like, I don't have to prove it to anyone else. But in my mind, there had to be some of that, right? But I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. So I just worked hard. And I may not have had the education everybody had, but in my head, I had the street smarts and I had the work ethic. And so that's what I did. So I almost had a jobs, not necessarily career. I didn't have my career until I was like early 30s.
And then where'd you start there once you decided to start building this career?
Yeah, I ended up in sales like by mistake. Yeah, okay. So sales really will transform your personality.
I've been doing it since I was 18.
Yeah. So, again, that was around that same time where my mother said that, like, you should buy a house. Like, I was 30 years old. And that was a real transformative year for me because I had broken up from a long-term relationship. I had these 2 kids now. Like I said, I had nothing. And I went back into corporate. A year later, after just like going back into corporate, I was in marketing department for this small boutique firm, and I was moving to a big marketing firm. Someone called me out of nowhere. This guy that I know, he owned a dealership, and said to me, what are you doing now? And I'm like, I'm doing whatever I told him. And he's like, well, how much are you making? And I think I was making like $80,000 or $85,000 a year. And he's like, what if I could help you double that in a year? So mind you, right, I had like this whole transformational year where I'm not with my person I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with.
You bought your home a year after?
I hadn't bought my home.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't bought my home yet.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like on the grind, right? And my sister had just purchased her home. And so things were changing even more because we had moved back to the house in Brooklyn that my parents owned. And it was like a 2-family house. So my parents would come and like take care of the kids and all that. But now that was changing because now she moved and it like, just like the world was shifting. And so he calls me and he tells me that. And I said, yeah, let's do it. Now, my family and people thought I was crazy because I was leaving like a nice corporate job, 401k, all the things, the safety, right? To move to this small, independent lot in Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Right.
I didn't know what the heck I was doing. All I knew was that he said I could make more money, right? And in my head, I needed to make as much money as like my sister and her husband, right? I needed to like...
So you by yourself set this goal to make as much as these two people.
That was in my head. Like,
okay.
is this possible?
I appreciate
right?
it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we need is motivation sometimes.
Right. Is this possible? And I was always a little bit more of a risk taker, right? I'm the second born. I have a sister and a brother from my dad's previous marriage, but from my parents, I'm the second. And so I was a little bit more of the wild child, right? A little bit more of like the carefree, it's fine, everything is great, and like that. So I was a little bit more of a risk taker. So anyway, so I take this job, day one. Now, I don't even know what a finance manager is. And I don't know if you know what, but like it's the guy that says your numbers when you go to like that
guy
person.
that keeps you there for 4 hours.
Trying to sell you. Yeah, that guy. I didn't know what a finance manager was. He's like, I'll teach you how to be a finance manager. So I never sold a car in my life. I don't know anything about cars. I don't know really anything about numbers. I don't know anything about the car business. But what I know is that I know how to work hard.
Right.
So he gives me this opportunity. And a year later, I was doubling, right?
Wow.
Yeah, 100%. Now, in the car business, you work your ass off. You work 60 hours a week,
right.
You're bell to bell, especially in a used car lot. Now, this used car lot, again, Flatbush, Brooklyn, to the point where at night the guys would have to walk me to my car.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm from Brooklyn, but like I'm 30-something years old now with 2 kids. Like, but I have the grind, right? I can kind of mold into whatever I need to mold into, right? But anyway, after working so hard, I decided I wanted to, my son was turning 13. At that time, I had somebody who lived with us, meaning like a nanny, and she would stay 4 days a week. And I'm like, this kid is not going to listen to her.
Right.
This kid is not going to listen to her. And I cannot have this kid running the streets. Like, I did not move to Long Island. At that point, I had bought my house. I did not move to Long Island so that he could just do whatever he wants, like he needs. So I'm like, I can't continue working this job. So what am I going to do now? I don't want to like trek it back to the city every day. Like that sounds horrible. At this point, I had a little bit more freedom, and I finally had worked at a place where I felt like I could be myself. Right? Because at the dealership, it was almost like I was working with my friends.
Right. We talked about it on the phone, there's no code switching. You're in Flatbush, Brooklyn. Your customer base is from Flatbush, most likely.
I was the most refined person in there.
Right. and that's saying something, right? Because you still got that hood part of you. But so you mentioned something I want to touch on. So you used, you were comparing.
Oh, yeah.
To your sister and her husband, and you went and did this doubling goal. But let's go back a little further. Where's this drive come from? Who were some of your early mentors, inspirations, people that gave you the belief that you could do whatever you put your mind to?
I don't know that I had that belief, to be honest. I don't think I did. The way I think is that, so my parents, they were definitely motivators because when we were little, they were on welfare. They were on welfare. I remember, I'm going to cry. I can already feel it. Where's my tissue?
Get no tissue.
Where's my tissue? I remember, I was just thinking about this because I did a road trip with my parents just this weekend. What's our friend's name here? Where's my tissue?
Dave's gone.
Dave.
Don't give
Dave,
any
where
tissues,
are you?
Dave.
I need a tissue. I did a road trip.
That's all right, Dave. Come on, make a guest appearance. Our official tissue distributor.
Thank you. I just did a road trip. I just got back from a road trip with my parents. So, we come from a big family. So there's 6 of us all together with my dad's kids, my brother, my sister, and my brother from my dad's first marriage. And then there's 4 of us with my parents, and I'm the second. I told you this. So always, a lot of kids, and then my cousins, and you know how it is coming from a Latino family, right? The cousins, we were all close. Anyway, so I was never really alone with my parents, but this year I made a decision that I wanted to spend more time with them. So they moved to Florida, and in February I went to go see them, and I'm like, wait, is this the first time I've ever been alone with you guys?
Wow.
And I'm like, it has to be. Because remind you, even if I was alone with them, I had my kids.
Right.
So they were with us. So I was never alone with them until February this year. So come Thanksgiving, I decided I was going to go down, and whoever wanted to come, and whoever can't come, that's okay too. So it ended up just me and them. And they love to drive up, which drives me crazy, but they love to drive up in December to spend the holidays with us, the month of December. So I said, I'll drive up with you guys. So we're on this road trip. And I started thinking about what was my drive. I asked myself that same question. And I was thinking about them. And I remember this story came into my head because they were on welfare. And well, they had food stamps. Maybe they weren't on welfare, but they had food stamps. And I remember being a little girl, and back then, you know, parents smoked cigarettes and stuff, and they gave me money to go to the store, or food stamps to go to the store and buy them cigarettes. And I remember the man saying, I'm not supposed to take this from you guys. Like, I can't, you're not supposed to buy cigarettes. Not that you couldn't buy cigarettes, you could buy cigarettes.
But now with food
the little
stamps.
kids, but now with food stamps. And isn't that wild? Like, you could buy cigarettes.
You buy cigarettes as a 7-year-old for your parents.
I was literally 7 years old. I was literally 7 years old.
Hood rules, if you're not from there, you would understand.
Exactly. And so they had worked so hard. They wanted to buy the building that we lived in, and we lived in Cypress Hills. And I'm lying, we didn't live in Cypress Hills. We lived in Ridgewood, which borders Bushwick.
Yep, I know.
And they wanted to buy that building. My grandmother was going to loan them the money to buy the building. They had both gotten jobs. They had both gotten off of food stamps and all of that, right? But the guy wouldn't sell it to them because he was German, and he wanted another German to buy the building. Mm. And so because they wouldn't sell it to us, we ended up in Cypress Hills, right over the hill.
Gotcha.
And they bought their first house there for, I think they told me it was $55,000. Mm. But it was their tenacity, their grind, their wanting to have more for their family. They bought that house in Brooklyn. They kept that house in Brooklyn. They then bought another house in Queens. And then they ended up with 3 homes. And I thought, they also bought a house in Puerto Rico. And so I thought to myself, well, if they could do it, why couldn't I? So that was the grind. That was it.
You brought back so many memories. So we never got to the point of owning anything because it was just my mother. So we always had enough. We just never had enough to get out or buy anything.
Right.
But I remember those trips to the store. Ironically, the 2 times my mother was on public assistance was after my brother and sister were born. I was already 13, 16 years old, so a lot older than them. And she decided to go on welfare for a year because she worked for public assistance all her life. She worked for the city of New York, just retired maybe 10 years ago. And we lived better in those 2 years that she decided to take off post-birth than at any other point in our life. Mm. And that's the conundrum of poverty, right? So you get this motivation out of a sense of survival, some maybe desperation, but also inspiration through your parents. So what's the rest of that car ride sound like? Because now you're getting to, as an adult, as a mom, as a somewhat successful person in the world, talk to your parents on a long car drive. What are some of the conversations like?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I am so lucky that I still have them. And so I started asking them questions like, what's your favorite memory of like us as a family? What's your favorite, like we just had like the most, and I heard stories I had never heard of. Like, just little story. We used to go camping a lot because they didn't have a lot of money. And my dad tells me the story for the first time. Their budget was $150. And they told my sister, Vanessa, do you want to go to Six Flags or do you want to go camping for 3 days? And she's like, let's go camping. And they said that I said, yeah, because I'm like, whatever she wanted, I wanted too. So it was like a lot of little stories like that. My parents were and are very much in love. So they are to know them is to love them. And they're like goals as far as like a relationship is concerned. But that was an amazing car ride. But one of the questions I started asking myself that I would love for maybe even you to ask yourself, one of the problems I think that we have is that we betray ourselves, right? And many times we don't even know that we're betraying ourselves. I'm like trying to put myself together back here because I'm like, I probably look crazy. But so the question I started asking myself was, when was the first time I betrayed myself? Because many times we're like, it's the relationship, it's the job, it's the boss.
Blaming, right?
Right? Not only blaming, but not understanding, okay, well, we actually betrayed ourselves in this process, that we got to the bad boss, the bad relationship, the bad whatever, friendship that we're still in. And I asked myself, when was the first time I betrayed myself? And I couldn't remember, because it probably happened when I was so little and so young that those little threads of betraying yourself, saying yes when you really want to say no, that still lives today. So the more that I can figure out how am I betraying myself today and stop doing that, then I'm going to get closer to every single thing I want in life, because now I'm completely in tune with who I want to become. Right. Not what I want to have, but who I want to become. And it's hard and it's challenging because we're just used to making somebody else feel more comfortable.
Absolutely. And in turn, we end up playing small. So what are some of the things that you do or you've done to enhance your knowledge of you at a soul level?
Yeah. So many things. But like when I first started out, so the whole reason why I'm even on this, why I started this journey was because I was in corporate. I became a leader and I had all of this like imposter syndrome because I never finished my college degree, because I was a young mom, because even if I wasn't young as far as age is concerned, I looked young, so they thought I was younger, like all these things. And I was male dominated, mainly white, like I was usually the only woman at the table, the only woman of color, like all those things were playing in my mind. And I led a $4 billion organization. And I led a team remotely of mainly men. So I really had to figure myself out if I wanted to stop repeating myself over and over and over again, right? Because when you think about our problems, all of our problems are people problems, right? So the goal was to figure out, how do I become less frustrated at work and accomplish the goals? Because I loved it. Like I loved making money. I loved hitting the bonuses. I loved having the title. I loved it all. What I realized was that I was always into self-help, or what I remembered. Mm-hmm. Because I remember really clearly an ex of mine telling me, go read another self-help book, like he was trying to, as an insult. So I'm like, when I go back to that 30 when I turned 30, had I really paid attention to those books versus paying attention to what other people were saying about me or what I was saying about myself, Lord knows where I'd be right now.
I'm going to stop you there because that's like a what if. This is your journey, and whatever is ahead is what you decide to define it to be. So the story you decide to write from here on out doesn't have to be defined by any of those beliefs that still limit you. And I only bring that up because we all have them.
Yeah.
And they are scary. And if they're not scary, you're not really playing to your full potential.
You're not living.
You're not stretching. You're not living. You're still in either survival mode, or if you've gotten the survival out of the way, maybe you're just on autopilot. The law of hypnotic rhythm is one of the terms that
Joe Dispenza?
No. Anyway, irrelevant. The law of hypnotic rhythm is basically, in short, autopilot. You are an autopilot, whether you're going in one direction or the other, whether you're doing something positive or doing something negative.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you kind of transforming from corporate career to now assisting and helping others with their own limiting beliefs on their own journeys, because you have such a great story. And what was the catalyst for that? When did you say, you know what, this is safe, this is not, but this is where I'm supposed to be?
Life is beautiful like that, right? God, I always say, like, how God pokes you and then God pushes you and then God kicks you, like he's going to give it to you. He's going to put it in front of you, and we're going to choose to pay attention or not.
Right.
And so, like I said, I was always into self-help. I always loved inspirational stories. Any book I read was somebody's life. Like I didn't like fiction. I loved okay. So I'm in corporate. I'm doing extremely well, very well, right? Because I have that kind of drive, that ethic, right, that work ethic. And I have these really tough bosses. because that's how life is, right? Everybody else had like these nice bosses, and I'm like, why do I have to get the ones that are like old school, command and control? They're going to continue pushing you, but not pushing you in a way that lifts you up, pushing you in a way that kind of almost tears you down.
Or toughens you up.
Or toughens you up.
If you can
like,
stand
I was
it.
already tough. God, why do you have to make me more tougher? Right? So anyway, life gave me that. And there came a point where I had to either look for another job, or I was going to lose my shit on this woman, right? Because in the beginning, I'm like, you have to earn your stripes, and this is all part of the process. And not that it didn't bother me, but it didn't bother me enough, right? Because I was like, this is all part of the process. This is what I have to do. Right. But once I had gotten the title or the role that I had wanted, and I had been in it for a couple of years, I was like, I was done. I was done with the way she spoke to me. I was done with all of it. To the point where, and everybody knew, that I ended up one year, I remember I was on a ride along. Because we were all remote, and I have sales teams. And anyway, I'm on this ride along with my salesperson in upstate New York somewhere. And I get a phone call. It's the president of the company. And he says, Jessica, I know what you're going through. And you can't tell anybody. We're going to make you sign an NDA, but we're going to give you a $50,000 bonus to stay, because they knew that this woman was driving me fucking crazy.
Right.
So it was that bad. Anyway, so I stay, of course. And
they got you with the money.
Yeah, they got me with the money for sure. But I started working on myself. I started really working on myself, because I said to myself, everybody knows she's horrible.
Well, you took the 50, but you still know, and that feeling doesn't go away. You're still having to deal with this person.
Correct.
So where is it? What's the day you're like, all right, I'm done?
I decided to start working on myself.
Right.
Really working on myself. I actually got myself a coach. And because I had been reading all the books.
First time with a coach.
First time with a coach. And at that time, I got certified in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Stephen Covey, which I read that book when I was in my 20s, but being certified as a facilitator, completely different. And then I was going through the challenges that he spoke about in that book at the same time, implementing those things. My whole life was changing. I was becoming I wanted to be a better leader, because I said, you know what, if I could do nothing, I'm just going to take care of my team.
And I have to think that the way that she was mistreating you or mismanaging you inspired you to become a better leader for anybody
1,000%. Yeah. But I'm sure I also took on some of those traits, because I still wanted to succeed in corporate, right? So the day I decided I'm not doing that, I'm going to actually learn how to push back on them in a way that's not my Brooklyn way, in a way that's going to land, right? Because I would shut down or I would blow up.
Right.
So
nothing in between.
Nothing in between.
That's not Brooklyn. That's Latina.
That part, right? I'm either shutting down, fine, or I'm blowing up.
Nuclear bomb.
Yeah, exactly, literally. So I started really working on myself. Okay, so this is what happens. I then get a different boss. He's kind of the same, but passive aggressive. This year that I made a decision, I had been doing so well. The last couple of years, I had gotten an 8% merit raise the year before, which is like unheard of in corporate. Typically, it's like 3 to 4%. Yeah. And the following year, I was going to get an even bigger raise. I think that year I had gotten like an almost $100,000 bonus.
Wow.
Just bonus, which
this is outside of the 50 and all that.
No, this is a different year, right? Yeah. But this is outside of my base, my base was big. Anyway, so he tells me, you're at the top of the pay band. In corporate, every position has
the ceiling, yeah.
Right. So he's like, we're going to have to get you a promotion. We have this conversation during mid-year. So I'm like, perfect. Yeah, let's do it. That same month, someone else gets promoted. A promotion comes up in my department, and they give it to somebody else, which was unheard of in my department. They typically still, even if they knew that you were going to get it, they still interview. They kind of go through the motions to get the bench ready. They didn't do that. They just gave it to somebody else. So because I had done the work on myself, I said, that's God. That's a sign that maybe this is not for me anymore. And when I was in that coaching space and I saw what some of these people were doing, saying, and what they were getting paid for, I was like, what? Like, I saw how I was transforming my team, not what they did, who they were. And I'm like, oh, I need to give this to everybody. I have to give it to everybody on a level that is not just you can get paid more, you can become a different person. And so that month was this month I decided, let me try this coaching thing. So I opened, actually I hired a VA. She started my Instagram. And then that October, I started my first coaching program. I was still in corporate. Right. And I'm like, my boss is going, like, he was so old school. He wouldn't even allow me, I say it, he would question if I wanted to volunteer my time within the organization. So imagine, yes. He would be, why would you do that? How are you gonna do that? How are you gonna, like, he would question within the organization. So I knew he would be pissed if he knew I was doing anything outside. So I felt like I was like cheating on my husband. You know?
Yeah,
but
it's a big part of your life.
But I wanted to make sure that this is something I wanted to do, could do. Is there like, do I have a proven process? Would this work and resonate with others? And it did.
And how did you transform that into what you do now? Who are some of your ideal clients? Who are some of the people you help? And please share one of the best success stories you have with us.
I have so many success stories.
Your favorite then?
Okay, my favorite, absolute favorite. And this has happened to me so many times that it's like wild. People have told me that I not only help them, this is like, now I'm really gonna cry because it's crazy. I help them not only cure their trauma or stop their trauma, but I have helped them stop like the generational trauma, because now they are not passing their shit onto their children. Because I help them realize kind of the core. I like to get to the root. I don't give you surface level, like say this, don't say that. I help you understand, where is this even coming from?
Right.
Because that's where we change who we really are.
It's an identity shift.
It's it's identity work. I say it's communication because it is. But
communication with self.
It's not only communication with self, it is communication with others, because the way you communicate with others has a lot to do with what's going on in here. Huh? And so it's a complete identity shift. And so to know that I'm making that kind of impact, I mean, it touches my soul.
Obvious. It's obvious that this is what you are meant to do.
Yeah, I'm definitely my purpose.
And that's how I feel about sitting here with someone like you. That's how I feel about my Money Mindset Movement coaching program that's right on the cusp, and all the things we do. Because if we're not being in service of others,
that's it. And I don't think we understand that.
We're always going to be trying to fill that gap with stuff. And I remember moving to Long Island and, being pretty well off and having money to blow. And that's what you do. You blow money. And then I remember going to my garage one day and being like, what the fuck is this? Like, you literally, you use it, you put it in, and it's just stuff. And it literally was stuff that filled you for a little and then went into the storage because it didn't serve any purpose other than that immediacy. So tell our audience where they can find a little bit more about you and how you can introduce them to some of the things that you put out in terms of helping your clients shift the narrative that they're telling themselves.
Yeah, because that's really what we work on. So you can find me I hang out mostly on Instagram at jessicarivera.co. That's also my website, jessicarivera.co. You can find me there as well. And so I have several coaching groups that I do. I also work a lot with corporate. I work with organizations like big organizations like Turner Construction, LVMH. I've done things with Chase, like big organizations. But my coaching groups, I also have retreats that I do. So I have an upcoming retreat. And one of the things that I'm really working on this year is helping people step into their bold brand. Like, people are so afraid to say and to be seen a certain way and to do a certain thing. And I'm like, no. We don't need you to be more polished. We need you to be more you.
Yep.
But you have to understand who you are and who you are becoming. And so I really help them understand that and really step into their bold brands, whether it be online or in person, because there's nothing worse than meeting a person online and then they show up and you're like, who the heck is this person? Because
look
what
the
they're
same, they don't
preaching
talk the same,
and what
they
they're
don't
preaching
act.
has nothing to do with who they truly are.
Yep.
And so I really want people to become more of who they are. We have enough cookie cutter. We have enough, copy and paste people. I want you to be your real authentic self.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
The makeup still looks fine.
Does it? I don't know.
Yes, it does. She's all worried about it, as
I
all the
am
ladies are.
very,
They cry.
very.
And should be. But it's hanging tough. You did a great job. And as always, we'll have Jess's information in the bio. Thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you got something meaningful out of today's episode. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Real Mentors Podcast. Let's get it.